Hi everyone, it is currently the 3rd of August 2015. Meteorologist Robert Spenna here with you. Today we of course are continuing to track our Typhoon Soudelor. This is still tracking off here towards the west, and it absolutely slammed into the island of Saipan in the overnight hours from Sunday going into Monday. I know if you watched our last update, we had the radar imagery of this storm system just prior to landfall. Now you can see it moving away. I'm talking about these islands back here towards the east, and see that little pinhole eye around that center of circulation? That eye is what moved directly over these islands. Brought some rather significant damage out here. Actually, we're talking about most of the trees completely wiped clean, and we're even palm trees, which are built to withstand against typhoons. Many roofs have been basically torn off out here. We are seeing significant damage to the electrical grid. Power is still out. It's the saving graces at this time. We have not seen any reports of any significant injuries or casualties coming out of this area, but it just goes to show that these storm systems, despite the fact this was a severe tropical storm just prior to landfall here in Saipan, it absolutely intensified very quickly, and even it being expected to be a Category 1 type typhoon, it caused some significant damage, and that's why you never let your guard down with these systems. That said, what's the forecast for this storm system? That's what everybody's worried about, because it is continuing to intensify, of course, and by the time this approaches the southern islands of Japan and around the Taiwan area, the winds will, well, what they're expected to be is about twice as intense as what we've seen in Saipan, and this is built, the wind scale for a typhoon, or the actual power behind it, is not linear. And what I mean by that, the stronger the winds get, the more energy that actually comes with that. So we're seeing not only a stronger storm, but much more energy in this storm system that when we've seen over Saipan. And exactly where this impacts is very crucial. And it does look like it is going to be hitting somewhere around Miyako, Ishigaki, or Taiwan by Thursday into Friday. Look at this, the official track from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. That's the U.S. military. Winds right now 115, gusting to 140 knots. They do have this max winds expected to be 140, gusting to 170 knots. That's absolutely intense. The term for super typhoon, actually, they're expecting a super typhoon by this evening here on Monday at 130, gusting to 160. So this is going to be a super typhoon in the near future. And regardless, even if this storm system slightly misses you to the west or east, that type of storm is still going to cause some damage. And actually, this is expected to pass right next to Ishigakijima. Now, the good thing is the southern islands of Japan, as far as preparedness for typhoons, this is the place to be. If there was anywhere on the face of the earth I would rather be for high winds, it is in Miyako or Ishigaki. This place, they've already seen several typhoons thus far this season, but this very well could be one of the stronger ones. Of course, JTWC is not the only agency out here, and not the official agency as far as what the warnings are out here in the Western Pacific. That is coming from the Japan Meteorological Agency. Right now, they have winds 95, gusting to 135, a little bit weaker, but remember, they do theirs on a 10-minute vice a 1-minute wind scale. Key thing to keep in mind, though, is in the forecast, they have this going up to a violent typhoon. That's about the equivalent of a super typhoon. Pressure down to 910 HBA. They're expecting here as we go ahead into the 6th. Key thing about that, remember, Haiyan, it got down to 895 HBA according to the Japan Meteorological Agency. 15 HBA difference. That's a pretty intense storm system. They have the track moving a little bit farther to the south than what JTWC says as far as impacts here in Ishigaki, but that's still going to have some pretty high winds. Even tropical storm strength winds could extend as far north towards Okinawa based on the current outlook. Very well could change and swing farther towards the north or towards the south, but at least with this, you're expecting a major impact out here into Taiwan. Not only with the winds, but the rain. As we know in the past, when storms hit these mountains out here, especially one as strong as what we're expecting, the situation in Taiwan gets absolutely intense, and we're talking about very significant rainfall, around 700 to 800 millimeters of total precipitation, and furthermore, you could see some actually fairly significant flooding. Now, this is what you're looking at the HWRF. This is a high resolution, courtesy of Tropical Tidbits. Is our storm system based on this model. Tracks north of Taiwan, with the western flank basically wrapping around. The heaviest rainfall being around Taipei City. As far as the location where this does hit the hardest, it would be in Ishigakijima, with Miyakojima being in the right front quadrant. So we look ahead, though, it does pass north of Taiwan. Great news there. Unfortunately, hits Fuzhou province with a pressure around 935 HPA. I mean, that's not anything you want to take lightly. Let's switch up the models here. Let's take a look at the GFS, actually. Basically, very similar output, moving in between Ishigaki and Miyakojima. Yeah, remember, these areas really can take typhoons, but 950 HPA still isn't anything that you don't want to not mess with. That's actually pretty rough out there. And then we can even show you what the ECMWF model is showing at this time. Actually, you know what? Let's move away from this. Take a look at the ECMWF using the Meteor Earth app. I absolutely love this application. You can find it on the App Store, of course, on your Mac, or even on the App Store on Windows as well. This thing's everywhere, but one of my favorite tools for broadcasting, showing what the winds are doing. It is only showing the ECMWF model. That's taking the storm system a little bit farther towards the south, and actually makes the biggest difference as far as the impact on the southern islands, or if it does have a direct landfall here into central Taiwan. Now, this would be absolutely a devastating scenario if this hit just like this, with all that moisture wrapping around the northern section of this storm system, because that ends up hitting these mountains and it just causes some severe flooding. Something we always talk about with storm systems like this. As far as the winds in these islands over here, around 60 to 80 kilometers per hour, nothing to laugh at, but not quite typhoon intensity. You would have to get a little bit closer to the center of circulation, and as this picks up around 112 to 130 kilometers per hour. So, yeah, that's what we're looking at right now, though, guys. Really, there is a big difference in what exactly the models are expecting. They either are going to take this over towards Ishigaki or Miyako, or over towards Taiwan. You want to take a look at the overall background flow, and let's do a little bit meteorology. It shows you is just the overall background flow and the dynamics in place that are basically steering the model guidance. And when the models initiate a storm system, they all take the overall synoptic setup slightly different, especially over the open ocean. That's why we get differences in what the models are saying. Right now, what we do know is that the Westpac High is basically centered over Kyushu, and also the Tibetan High in the upper levels extends over from the west as well. So this has been putting this big old ridge right in here, and that's the reason why, if you're in Korea or across much of Japan, it has been just absolutely steaming hot out here. But the thing is, this acts as a wall as well for tropical systems. So our storm's going to follow that overall flow and basically follow along the, so let's clear that up, follow along the southern periphery of that Westpac High into these arrows, basically scooting off here towards the west. So it depends on if this high settles farther towards the south, or if it lifts far enough towards the north, maybe getting enhanced by that trough way off here into Siberia, and that might pull it off. And these are the kind of the factors we're looking at right now as far as the track of this storm system. It really all depends on what this whole setup in here actually does. For now, though, we're definitely going to keep an eye on it. I definitely am watching this very closely. We'll have more updates when new information comes in. But for now, thanks for watching, guys. Please stay safe out there. I hope everybody that's watching from Saipan or Guam, wish you all the best. This storm system definitely blew through there quite intensely. So, yeah, wish you all the best. Stay safe.